A major winter storm is likely to impact the Midwest and the Northeast as we approach the late week, where we could see potentially up to a foot of snow in many areas of the Midwest, and we could see heavy snowfall as well in the Northeast. If we were to take a look at the latest depiction of the GFS model, we do see that we're going to pay close attention to this small low pressure system that's located just off the Northeast coast. We could bring some snow showers right along the eastern portions of New England, where Boston could experience potentially up to 3 to 6 inches of snow, and some areas potentially even more. So you want to pay close attention to this around the eastern portion of New England. But headed into the more long-term future, there's another low pressure system that's expected to move into the mid-section of the country, but it'll primarily bring snow exclusively to the northern portion of Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan, where in most of these areas you should mainly expect 1 to 3 inches, but of course there will be some areas where you could experience more than that, more around 3 to 6 inches, such as the northern portion of Michigan. Because if I were to continue to move forward, we do see that this low pressure system becomes marginally powerful to at least bring some heavier snow bands in the northern portion of Wisconsin and Minnesota. So you want to pay close attention to that. However, this low pressure system that's coming off the California coast, that's expected to come off the California coast by the early week, will be our next significant snowstorm for the majority of the Midwest, where the more populated areas of the Midwest should get impacted, where we do see that the GFS model is expecting this low pressure system to approach the midsection of the country right around the Wednesday timeframe, and right behind it we have a large area of cold air, and that's going to interact with the very warm and moist environment we're seeing right around the southeast at this time. And we have seen a difference with the GFS model's depiction of this storm system, because yesterday the GFS model wasn't very confident that this ridge that's just to the north of it was gonna build as quickly. So as a result, we saw this low pressure system a lot weaker in the previous GFS model scenario that was yesterday, where we saw this low pressure system mainly move due west rather than become a very powerful low pressure system. But now it seems like the GFS model has caved in to lean more to the European model, not only to have a scenario that's very similar to the European model, but it even goes beyond that, where it wants to bring a much stronger ridge right around the midsection of the country than the European model. So as a result, we see a more powerful low pressure system where this storm system develops a lot more rapidly than the European model, where we do see heavy snowfall throughout the northern portions of Colorado. Denver could get involved with very heavy snowfall, maybe potentially up to 6 inches of snow, as well as northern Kansas if the GFS model's scenario was correct, where we do see a strong enough ridge that's bringing a strong enough pressure gradient, where we're seeing that strong southerly flow move towards pretty much circulate around this low pressure system, bringing that very warm and moist environment into the Midwest for a significant snowstorm to develop. And as a result of how much cold air is located, we're seeing a high level of instability and convection as well, thanks to this southerly flow that's creating such a big gap when it comes to temperature and such an unstable environment in the Midwest. And if I were to continue to move forward, we do see that heavy snowfall continues into the early Thursday timeframe throughout the northern portion of Kansas and Nebraska, and moving even more forward, we could see that potential of heavy snowfall in the northern portion of Missouri and Iowa. Now, there's still uncertainties with the forecast. We're going to need to wait and see how the jet stream positions itself, and of course how powerful this low pressure system will be, because the European model isn't as confident as bringing as powerful of a snowstorm as early as the GFS model. So in the areas I'd say that are just west of Chicago, the forecast is a little bit more uncertain regarding how much snowfall you will experience, because both of the two main computer models are disagreeing in how rapidly this low pressure system will develop. The GFS model wants to develop it rapidly, while the European model is less lenient on bringing as strong of a storm as early. But they both agree that they won't bring very heavy snowfall to the Chicago area. Now, of course, there's still a lot of time to iron out the forecast. I'm going 5 days out, so we're going to need to pay close attention to how the jet stream positions itself over the next several days, because that will determine the track of this. And the Chicago area should be relatively close to the rain snow line, so any small differences in the forecast could mean difference of potentially experience up to a foot of snow in the Chicago metro area, or less than an inch of snow in the Chicago area. We're going to gonna need to pay very close attention to the small details, as the forecast right now is far from certain. But we do see the snow eventually move into Iowa, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin by the Thursday time frame, and moving on into Friday as well. This snowfall moves into Michigan, where Detroit as well could get involved. And this snowfall is very heavy. We do see the pinks right over the Chicago area in the GFS model scenario. So this would be a very powerful snowstorm. And moving our focus a little bit further east, where we do see that the Northeast, it's primarily a rain event, as again there's too strong of a ridge located just to the east of this low pressure system to force that cold air to be located far south enough to have this precipitation fall in the form of snowfall. But there still could be that chance of that possibility of snowfall as a result of this strong northerly flow that we're seeing from this past low pressure system that moved through the United States, to where the interior Northeast could experience some heavy snowfall associated with this storm. And it should happen during the midday on Friday. So if you're around the Adirondacks and the Vermont and New Hampshire area, you need to pay very close attention to that, as well as Maine, because it seems like you could be in for a very significant snowstorm. But again, we're going to need to pay very close attention to how the track unfolds over the next several days. However, beyond this next storm system, there is a possibility of another storm system developing right around January 23rd, where we do see the snow move relatively close to the northeast, bringing very heavy snowfall to the interior Northeast. But we're gonna need to wait and see if this forecast continues, and there's still a lot of time to see where this storm will exactly go. So I'll keep you guys updated. But the fact that both the GFS and the European model also agree that there's going to be at least some sort of storm system developing right around Sunday to Monday between January 22nd and the 23rd, that could mean that there's increasing possibility that at least somewhere in the United States they'll experience another major snowstorm right around the 22nd and 23rd. But I'll keep you guys updated over the next several days regarding this storm system. We're going to need to wait and see how strong of a jet stream that there is. Of course, if the cold air will be locked in place in the Northeast, which has been a trend that hasn't been going on this winter, of course, thanks to how much ridging that's been going on. But I'll keep you guys updated, because of course weather is very unpredictable, and just because we've seen a trend over the past several months does not mean it'll continue for the rest of the winter. So I'll keep you guys updated as the forecast changes regarding this storm system. Take a look at what the European model is forecasting. At least for the short-term forecast, the European model is very similar to what is stating something very similar to what the GFS model is stating. It does expect a couple of snow showers to develop right around the eastern portion of New England. So Boston, you should expect maybe around 3 to 6 inches of snow, especially in the more eastern portions, as this could be fairly significant for you guys. So you want to pay close attention to that. The European model also expects another mid-latitude cyclone to move through right around the Tuesday timeframe, bringing some snow to the northern portion of Wisconsin. However, the key difference arises with the more long-term forecast, where we do see that the European model does not want to develop this next potential significant snowstorm as rapidly, where we see pretty much very scattered snow showers just to the north of this low pressure system, as opposed to this large swath of heavy snow the GFS model is forecasting. And this as a result of a weaker amount of ridging that the European model is expecting just to the east of this low pressure system. And as a result of that, we aren't seeing as strong of a pressure gradient between this ridge and this low pressure system to create a strong southerly flow or very strong southerly winds to force that warm air to interact with this very cool air mass to create an unstable environment for high enough convection to occur for a heavy amount of snow to occur. So as a result, we're seeing lighter snow showers at least early on, before eventually, of course, the storm rapidly intensifies once the pressure gradient between this ridge and the slow increase. So the timing of when we see the pressure gradient between this low and this ridge will be key in determining how rapidly the storm will intensify. That will also determine how where exactly this low pressure system will go, because the stronger southerly winds, of course, then we're more likely to see the storm move a little bit further northward. So this will bring snowfall a little bit further northward and rainfall a little bit more northward as well. So maybe Chicago could be more in a rain event in that scenario. But again, it seems like both the computer models are leaning on bringing heavy snowfall to Chicago at this time. We're going to need to see if this forecast holds up. So pay very close attention to this over the next several days, because this could be a very significant snowstorm if everything goes right. And this could include Kansas as well, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska. You need to pay close attention to the northern portion of Missouri as well. So a lot to really pay close attention to. And we even see the European model wanting to bring a heavier snowfall a little bit further southward, to where even Boston could get involved with a very significant snowstorm out of this. So we need to pay very close attention to this. And in terms of this next storm system, we see the European model is taking a very common trend with the 22nd storm system, where we do see that the snow pressure system moves a little bit too far north a little bit early to bring that snow to the eastern at least the northeast, where we see that most of the snow is in either the interior northeast or in the well far to the west into the Midwest. But there's still a lot of time to iron out the forecast, so I'll keep you guys updated over the next several days. Take a look at what the GFS model is forecasting when it comes to snowfall accumulation over the next 7 days. We do see that this will be a very significant snowstorm for millions of Americans across the Midwest, where we do see that Chicago gets involved with close to a foot of snow. Iowa, Des Moines gets involved with over 6 inches of snow. The northern portion of Kansas and the southern portions of Nebraska get involved with 6 to 12 inches of snow. And even the Denver area receives close to, if not over, a foot of snow. So you need to pay very close attention to this all throughout the Midwest, because this could be potentially a dangerous snowstorm, and you want to make sure to stay off the roads, because of course you don't want to risk going out in very heavy snowfall where the road conditions will be very slick, dangerous, and don't go out unless it's an extreme emergency. And even if we are looked into the New England area, we do see a large area of the interior northeast experiences 6 to 12 inches of snow, including Maine, where you could potentially receive over a foot, which is pretty much combining the snow totals you're going to experience from this potential nor'easter that's expected to move through very, very soon. So you want to pay close attention to that. And as well as the Boston area, you could experience maybe around 2 to 4 inches of snow associated with this nor'easter that's going to move just to the east of you guys in the very near future. This is what the European model is forecasting when it comes to snowfall. Of course, not as much snowfall throughout the most of the Midwest, where we do see 3 to 6 inches rather than 6 to 12 inches. The GFS model is forecasting, but this will still be a significant storm for much of the Midwest, which makes me confident that there will be a major snowstorm moving in these exact same areas. So you want to prepare as if that significant snowstorm is on your way. And the European model also agrees that Chicago could be in for 6 to 12 inches snow associated with this storm system. So you want to pay very close attention to that. And we do see a more significant storm for much of the Northeast, where in the areas just north of Boston over the next several days, you could experience over a foot of snow, which would be very significant. We're going to need to see if this forecast holds up over the next several days, but it seems likely at this point that the Midwest, a lot of these same areas will experience a significant snowstorm, so you want to prepare accordingly. And for the Northeast, the snowfall forecast does become a little bit more uncertain, but I'll keep you guys updated. But I could assure you guys that we will see snowfall at least in some portions of the Northeast associated with this storm system. So here's my current snowfall forecast when it comes to this winter storm. This is subject to change, but I will state that a major winter storm is likely for much of the Midwest, including potentially Chicago, where you could get involved with some accumulating snowfall. It may not necessarily be 6 to 12 inches, but I will say that it's becoming increasingly likely at this point that the Chicago area and many of these areas shaded in pink will at least experience some sort of accumulating snowfall associated with this winter storm. We're going to need to wait and see where that rain snow line will be, but because that will play a big role in terms of in determining whether or not you experience 1 to 3 inches of snow or potentially 6 to 12 inches of snow. So you want to pay very close attention to that, as well as the New England area, because the nor'easter is likely to impact you guys in the very near future as we approach the early week. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content.